Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending the regular meeting of the City of South Fulton. At this time, if you have any cell phones or anything else, I'd like you to turn them off or shut them down, or put them on vibrate for us, please. Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, members of council, if you want to entertain a motion to close executive session.
I'd like to make a motion to end executive session.
Motion been made to end executive session. Do I have a second?
Second.
Properly moved to second in discussion. Hearing none, let's vote. And Mr. Clerk, we had no decision made in executive session, is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Therefore, that work adjourns today's work session at 7:06. I'll call the roll for our regular meeting agenda. Mayor William Bill Edwards.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mark Baker. Present. Councilmember Catherine Rao.
Present.
Councilmember Carmelita Dunn.
Present.
Councilmember Helen Z. Willis.
Present.
Councilmember Naima Hilliard. Present. Councilmember Rosie Jackson is in the back. And Councilmember Khalid. Present.
Okay, we will have the invocation by our chaplain, followed by pledge of allegiance.
Let us all stand. Let us pray. Dear gracious God, we thank you once again. Every time you bring us together, we're overwhelmed with excitement and joy because you keep just doing great things for the city of South Fulton. We thank you for the progress, but most of all, we thank you for our leadership, for those who have been elected first by you and by the citizens and all our departmental heads. So continue to allow your power and your love and your presence to fall upon us as we continue to do your work. This we pray. Let us all say amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Mr. Clerk, I'd like to move something for the consent agenda. Item number E. That was a mix-up of communication between me and my staff. And that's not ready. Okay. So you just want to remove that.
So that's letter E on.
Letter E. Yes.
So we're going to remove that appointment for the airport west. That being said, there are still 4 other items, 2 meeting minutes, August 14th and August 21st, and then 2 proclamations that were spread upon the minutes that were presented in between meetings from Councilmember Baker and Mayor Edwards.
So move. To approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Properly moved second in discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor? That's as amended. As amended. Okay. That's unanimous, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, your next item is approval of today's regular meeting agenda.
Clerk, I'd like to move to hold item ordinance 2018-031.
Second.
2001.
2018-031. This is for the second reading ordinance. I would like to hold that.
And that's it. Okay. Properly moved to second. Is there any discussion? All hearing none, all those in favor? That passes unanimously. Anyone else? I'll entertain a motion
To approve as amended.
to approve as amended. Do you have any?
I make a motion to approve the regular meeting agenda as amended.
Second.
Properly moved to second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? That passes unanimously, Mr. President.
That takes you to your proclamations and recognitions. The first item, co-sponsored by Councilmembers Rao and Guns, a proclamation recognizing Touch of Life Chiropractic Appreciation Day.
Okay. All right, council, come on. Got a long night. Don't be shy. Anybody want to make a So, I would like to say, these are some great people right here, and you're going to be amazed with the things that they're doing in the community. I want you to definitely embrace them and the things that they're doing in the community and continue to support South Fulton. So we are honored to give you this proclamation, your first City of South Fulton proclamation, and I'm going to read it as, whereas Touch of Life Family Chiropractic is a family referral-based chiropractic office located in Camp Creek Marketplace, founded by local residents, Dr. Patrice and Bryson Thompson Sr. At Touch of Life, the major focus is on improving the functioning of the body as opposed to simply treating pain and symptoms. Dr. Thomas has focused heavily on building a practice based on where community outreach and service. By using state-of-the-art technology to analyze the body, the operation, #Healthy South Fulton initiative, she is able to offer a variety of treatment for the entire family from newborns to the elderly. This is achieved through free health screenings at local events and providing health talks to businesses and organizations throughout South Fulton area.
Whereas the idea for the Healthy South Fulton Family Fun Day came from Bryson and Dr. Patrice Thompson's commitment to always give back and try to connect the South Fulton community in a positive way. With their Camp Creek anniversary falling around the beginning of the school year, it creates an opportunity to add community partnerships for an event that will strongly benefit the children and families in South Fulton. Whereas the vision for the Family Fun Day is to have a centralized event in the South Fulton community where families can meet vital health, wellness, kids services, and business providers in the South Fulton community. And whereas in turn, the Family Fun Day will provide an opportunity for local businesses to highlight their services and encourage residents to support the local South Fulton business community. We hope that this event can grow into something that the entire city and area can look forward to on a yearly basis. Now therefore it be resolved that the mayor and city council of the city of South Fulton do here proclaim Tuesday, August the 28th as Touch of Life Family Chiropractic Day in the city of South Fulton. For those who don't know, me and Councilwoman Gums partner with Touch of Life to hold our first Family Healthy South Fulton Day. We had about 1,600 people who came out. We gave away about 600 book bags to kids to get them ready for school. We had an awesome time, and we could not have done it without the support of the community and a number of organizations who partnered with us, from the Masons to Delta Sigma Theta. We had just a huge outpouring of community support. So thank you for your vision and your leadership. And so again, this is the first of many, and we're looking forward to working with you in the future to make sure that this is citywide and we don't grow the event from here.
Absolutely, thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Tell us a little bit about Touch of Life.
Oh, gosh, she put me on the spot here. Okay, thank you, guys. I can't, thank you, City of South Fulton enough for being the support for that event, but our vision of Touch of Life when we first came to this community, as she says, we are residents of this community, was to bring health and wellness. And that's something that we don't see in our community. We're always thinking of pain-based, or where's the next shot, or where's the next surgery. But we primarily want to be able to transform not only the mindset of the community, but transform the vision of what health and wellness actually looks like. So we see from the womb to the tomb. So we see the little babies all the way up to the senior citizens in order to really affect that change in that community. We wanted to start here simply because these are our babies. right? And they're gonna grow up into being citizens in this community. And so where would it be a perfect place to start it right here in the city of South Fulton? So I wanna thank you guys. Thank you for giving us this honor, but more importantly, for supporting us.
And where can they find you?
So you can find us in 2 different places. So we're at www.touchoflifecairo.com. On Instagram, we're Touch of Life Cairo. You can meet us actually at our office, right in the Camp Creek Marketplace. If you're familiar where the Staples and PetSmart are right in that plaza. So definitely come visit us, come see exactly what we do. We are always out in the community at a lot of different events, so you can always stop at our booth there too to find a little bit more information about us.
Thank you. Do you want to introduce your people?
They're back. They're being as good as they can be right now.
I'm gonna get you all to come in. Come in a little closer, please. Thank you. I can't,
You can't see
Miss
Miss
Jackson, I can't see you. There we go. There we go.
It should be the Toronto.
Okay, here we go. You wanna go first? Right here first.
All right, here we go on 3. 1, 2, 3. And one more time. 1, 2, 3.
All right, right here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Yes, ma'am. My brother.
Somebody else.
All right. My brother, hey,
The next proclamation is a proclamation recognizing the Old National Day Stop the Violence Community Festival, hashtag Ceasefire Sunday. That's on September 2nd, 2018, and sponsored by Councilmember Khalid.
Could we have members of Old National Entertainment come up? As they come up, this actually started as a private party or private barbecue, and it's become an event that draws hundreds of residents, both current and alumni residents of Old National. It is quickly perhaps becoming one of our first citywide events. I'm really excited to have not only our police chief, but our solicitor and several of the departments coming out, because the people who come to Old Nat Day are not the people who come to these meetings. They tend to be a younger demographic, but they are a part of our city. We need to make sure that they are aware of what's going on in our city, that they're engaged, and that they're voting this year more than ever. So this is going to be an opportunity, a positive opportunity for many Old National residents who are not aware that we're a city to see us working as a city. And with that, I'm going to read this proclamation. Whereas what started out as a small picnic in the park for our Southside community has now expanded into a huge day filled with lots of activities for the whole family to enjoy from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. at 2400 Pleasant Hill Road in South Fulton, Georgia, the Sunday of Labor Day weekend. That's this Sunday at Old Nat Park. Whereas Tori Thomason and Old National Entertainment 1 have successfully sponsored this fun event for 3 years without any incidents of violence. Whereas Old National Day will feature concessions, kids, activities, an adult kickball game between Old National districts, free health screenings, a car show, live performances with some of Atlanta's finest entertainers, and much more. And whereas Tori Tomlinson and One are working with city officials to promote awareness of the new city of South Fulton to populations not normally engaged in the political process, and to bridge the gap between the business community and residents and restore a positive image of Old National and South Fulton. Now therefore be it resolved, the City Council of the City of South Fulton join in celebrating Old National and declare Sunday, September 2nd, 2018 as the Old National Day Stop the Violence Community Festival Ceasefire Sunday.
Hey, my name is Larry Upshaw, Vice President of 1E and this is Nakia. We thank y'all so much. For first of all, you didn't have to do this for us, for giving us a chance to be able to have on National Day. I'm representing Torrey Thomason. He does a lot for the community. He does the Easter event. We do a luau, and then we do a day, I think in November, where we give back to the homeless. Like Mr. Khalid said, we're trying to reach our youth because we have a lot of senseless murders. We have a lot of senseless, ignorant stuff happening in South Fulton now, and this does not represent South Fulton, who we are. So we get a lot of younger people. We get a young crowd. We hope y'all can come and enjoy a day with us where we can let everybody know what we're doing. We're trying to build a community back up, bring better businesses to South Fulton on Old National Highway. And we're also trying to make sure our elderly is okay. But we lost one of our own this year where one of our friends' son got killed, and it really hit home. And Torrey Thomason, called me crying. I'll just give you a little story. Called me crying that morning, and he was, I was like, Torrey, I don't know what else to do. And he was like, Larry, we got to keep marching on. And he loves Old National with all his heart. And and it helped me start back loving Old National, because I almost gave up. Because we're losing so many young kids. We're losing this. I got a kid that goes to Manica High School, and I got a house in Ponderosa. So I want the same thing from y'all. I just want Old National to be back like it used to be great. When people wanted to move out here, people wanted to come eat on Old National. When we had Longhorns to get our businesses back. Just growth, where we all can enjoy each other and love each other. And that's what Old National Day is for us. For everybody to come together, love each other, get to know each other, respect each other, and make awareness of crime. So somebody can come to us and say, look, this is not right in my neighborhood. And we can say, look, let us go to Khalid, let us go to the mayor and see what we can do about it. We've partnered with South Fulton Police Department. Thank you for, we had to go through hoops to get the permits, but it was worth it. It's making our events safer. We thank y'all for making us, giving us a South Fulton Police Department. We've sacrificed a lot of our own money and time to make this right for the South Fulton community. Like you said, it's going to be bigger and better every year. So please bring your families out, come enjoy it, and thank y'all again for everything y'all done for us.
I don't have to say anything, but just to give you all a little insight to what will be going on Sunday. We have a voter registration booth that will be out there during that time trying to get these young people registered to vote. We've been charged with a challenge by Councilman Khalid to start making it our business to be at these type of meetings, because we get that slap on the hand as well, because we haven't been diligent in coming to these meetings as we should. And now that we're in a position to be someone that our children and grandchildren are looking up to, we have to kind of show them the way to start making change in the community is first coming to these type of meetings, asking for things and saying what you do and don't want in your community. So we want to thank you for pushing us and putting us to the fire to come and do the right thing first and follow the steps that we needed to follow to be in place to be able to host events that are permitted by the city and not something that's done the wrong way. But we encourage you all to come out, bring your families. It's going to be a lot of activities. It's a free event. We have free giveaways. And it's just a good way to just come out and kind of see the community, see what we're trying to do, meet the young guys that are out there, the young women that are out there. We want to do more programs, and we're just glad that we have South Fulton, City of South Fulton, the new City of South Fulton behind us. Thank you.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Right here for Twitter and IG. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
You got an IG page?
We have a Twitter and an Instagram page.
Well, you have to tell people where to go.
No. Shoot it out.
COSFGA.
Before you go, Mr. Clerk, our official, I'm gonna start calling the official reader birthday man.
We're gonna turn it over.
Mr. Lee, you want to take a point of personal privilege?
Real quick, we just had 2 special birthdays. Our legislative specialists, Carol Lamar and Ashley Wright, if you would just stand up. They assist in Districts 5 and District 1. Happy birthday. We have some cards for you. We're going to make sure that all of our, District 2, I'm sorry. We're going to make sure that all of our council people have signed it, but Mr. Maxey will have this for you. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Okay, Mr. Clerk.
Did you leave one out on purpose?
Yes.
Did we leave one?
Okay. So that takes you to the public comment portion of today's meeting. Speakers will be granted up to 2 minutes each, and public comment will not exceed 30 minutes. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we have received 4 speaker cards for public comment. So if all 4 speakers will please now approach the podium. In the center aisle, Mr. Simon Jameson, Mr. Keith Perry, Ms. Linda Collins, and Mr. David Callahan. Mr. Jameson.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager. First of all, I want to thank you all for your continued service to the city. It doesn't go unappreciated. My name is Tamon Jameson, District 7. I'm the president of Opportunity Development LLC. And I stand before you today on behalf of fellow business owners who live within the city of South Fulton, who have businesses within the city of South Fulton, and who pay taxes in the city of South Fulton. As we begin to get the budget finalized over the next several weeks, I want you guys to please keep in mind the business owners who can provide services to you guys as you procure different services within the city as a whole and within the departments. We have an opportunity to help uplift the city from within by procuring the services from qualified businesses, not just a handout, but from qualified businesses who can provide some of those services to the city and to the individual departments. Now, I would love to see an opportunity for citizens who reside within the city, who own businesses, to have the first right. But I do understand that there's legislation that needs to be involved with that kind of process, and we need to have some kind of process in place, a formal process in place for that to happen. Have had conversations with the mayor and city manager about a potential incubator coming up. And I'm excited about that because not only does it allow people who currently have businesses to procure services with the city, but also to groom fellow future business owners who can also provide those same services. So I ask you tonight that as I take my seat, that you continue to think about us, the business owners who reside in the city of South Fulton, as you look to procure the services that we can provide for you, as well as if there aren't any qualified businesses within the city, then I would ask that you look for businesses who have owners that match the demographic of the city and the residents within our city. So thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it. You guys have a good evening. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, my fellow neighbors. My name is Keith Perry, and I'm from District 2. I want to thank you guys for hitting the reset button on the sanitation project. I think for all the things that have been mentioned previously, but also because I think it would have been an issue for the city to have to collect from the residents to recoup the costs for the sanitation project and for the liability the city might have incurred in dealing with non-paying residents. But I think at this time, this might be a good time to maybe look towards a different way. A couple years ago, when you met with the homeowners and residents and discussed the different proposals that the city could undertake to meet the mandate of the sanitation ordinances, one of the ways is that instead of the city providing sanitation services or contracting sanitation services for the residents, that you can actually set ordinances for different sanitation companies to operate within the city of South Fulton, and leave it for individual homeowners to contract with those sanitation services. This is the path that Sandy Springs undertook, and it's led to a lot of happy residents in Sandy Springs, and also it leads to a more efficient way of doing it, because the city wouldn't have to be responsible for the collection or recouping of fees from residents. In Sandy Springs, they charge their sanitation companies a 5% charge on the gross receipts for any business they do within the city. I recommend that we do the same thing. You can use that 5% to, fund a position to manage the sanitation contracts within the city of South Fulton, but also use it to pay for the illegal dumping that could go on in the city of South Fulton. It's a way that, one, that keeps residents, the ability to deliver the services more efficiently to residents. It keeps costs low, but it also keeps the city out of doing the little nitpicking things that would encourage you to go the other route. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I would, Belinda Collins, District 5. I would like to thank my City Councilwoman, Rosa Jackson, for inviting Chief Meadows to our HOA. We had a great meeting. He gave us a lot of directions on how we can help keep our community and city safe. So we look forward to working with him. Also, I would like to tell all the people that were affected by the dump truck that came down Fairwood Road with the hydraulic lift up that tore down all the wires all the way to the railroad track. They need to contact AT&T because our service was out for 5 days. We couldn't email and could not receive any emails. So they need to contact AT&T so they can get an adjustment on that. And if you have problems, ask them if they would like a police report. So we had a great meeting, and I look forward to working with the city. And y'all have a good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm David Callahan. I live at 6062 Hillendale Drive in the city. I'm speaking to ask for caution regarding a arbitrary minimum wage for city employees that goes against market forces. I've heard the figure of $15 an hour is a minimum wage, which of course would be a very low wage for persons that come into the city with skills. But it would be a very high wage and probably counterproductive for a high school graduate with no vocational skills trying to get into the job market. It may also not encourage morale, but it could cause a morale problem for established employees if they are confronted with somebody making almost what they make with no skills, and somebody who's making already $20 or $25 an hour who's been on the job for a period of time. The cost to the taxpayers is potentially a serious issue. And so if you have a $15 minimum wage, you're going to be forced to increase a number of wage scales going up in order to deal with the morale problem that confronts you. If you have, for instance, a person just out of high school with no real skills as a helper in the Public Works Department, that is a very high wage for a first-time employee. So I just ask that you be cautious in this area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Sir?
No further speakers.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, that takes you to the first item under the business section of today's agenda, rezoning, modifications, variances, all public hearings. The first item is a request for a modification, M18-003 in District 7. Staff?
Greetings, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the project behind us.
No more?
No.
Hey, okay, I'll roll with it. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item before you is a modification to Renaissance at South Park subdivision. This is an item you have heard before. We have had a deferral on this item twice. The applicant, Rockland Homes, is requesting to modify case number Z02124. The purpose of this request is to complete the subdivision that's been constructed some time back. The property is on mixed. It is surrounded by full, excuse me, there we go. The properties are surrounded by the City of Fairburn zoning, which are commercial and heavy industrial. So this case has had a number of changes, 2010 to 2012, but today they're reverting back to their original cases to ask for there to be 26 townhomes and 207 townhomes. Basically, this entire subdivision will be exactly townhomes instead of single family and multi-family. So you'll see on the site plan where those homes will go. Those townhomes will be located in 3 different sections. And you're seeing that the conditions are identifying what the existing conditions are and what the proposed are. You're also seeing that the comprehensive plan identifies it as a suburban 2 neighborhood. And the future land use designation is suburban 2, allows for a higher density. This is the entrance along Oakland Industrial Boulevard. And also you're seeing where the townhomes will be replaced, replacing the single family home lots. You're seeing where townhomes will replace the unbuilt apartments. And then you're seeing an entrance on Spence that will have townhomes there as well. Of course, by law, they're required to have their signs. Of course, this photo is showing you that they met that requirement. Council had 2 deferrals on this item, and staff is recommending approval.
Okay, is there anyone who wants to speak for applicant?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Pete Hendricks, practice law, 6085 Lake Forest Drive in Sandy Springs. I originally zoned this piece of property for Jay Knight a good number of years ago, and it has sort of morphed into different iterations of development plans. And what Tim Jenkins with Rockland is proposing, I think, is of extreme benefit to the overall community, not just the development proper itself of Renaissance Park South, but also the surrounding community. There will be a reduction of 106 units across the board. There will be a removal of the apartment multifamily component, and it will, as Shayla has commented, basically default to an all-townhome development. I believe that you all should have benefit in your packet. Lynn Sanders, who is the point person for Community Association Management that has the management of the development, has sent out an email to Brianna on August 14th, an update as to the critical points that were under discussion, as well as a very comprehensive letter that had gone out to each and every one of the homeowners at Renaissance Park South. Then on the 20th of August, there was a follow-up update as to the status of the main points that had been under discussion. I understand that those items have formed a part of your packet that you should have in front of you this evening. Mr. Tim Jenkins is here. If there are any questions of him, he'll be glad to respond. And we would greatly appreciate your acting favorably on the application, as your staff has recommended approval, and we are in agreement with the conditions that staff has put forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hendricks. I'll open up the public hearing. Those who are for or against, if you're for, go to Mr. Hendricks to the right. If you're against, come on this side. For over here, against over here. Come on. Come on, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Gregory Wright. I live in District 7, Renaissance, South Park. I was here on the 24th. We spoke against approval because there was conditions that we wanted met that had not been met. And we've since had conversation with Rockland, and they've agreed to address the main issues that we have, which were parking and fixing a local park that needed repair. So as a member of the advisory board, we no longer object to approval.
Okay, anybody else? Or again? Hearing none, I know you don't want to rebuttal. No, sir. So I'll close the public hearing, and Mr. Baker, I entertain a motion.
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion to approve, to actually accept staff recommendation approval under the conditions that, of the parking lot that we discussed, as well as the pond moving forward.
Properly moved to second in discussion.
Slightly, real quick, I just want to say this is an ideal situation because we did have to defer it twice, but I think that ultimately, after speaking with and bringing our parties together, everybody wins like this. So I'm very proud of the people in the district as well as the developer. Thank you.
It's always easy when you have to do it. All those in favor? That passes unanimously.
The next item is
Thank you all, appreciate it.
request for modification M18-004 King District 4.
Staff?
Okay. Greetings, Mayor and Council. The applicant has asked for a deferral, but staff is recommending not to accept that deferral tonight and asking to have the case still heard because we have deferred this item as well a number of times.
We've got to have a motion, I guess, from here to staff recommendation is not to defer it, but to hear the item. Can I get a motion for someone?
I'll make a motion that we not defer and we hear the item.
Properly moved to second in discussion. Ms. Gunn?
How many times have we deferred it? This will be the, I believe, the fourth time it's come before another board twice.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of us hearing tonight? Raise your hand. That passes unanimously. Staff.
Thank you. So the applicant, Michelle McCauley, is here to reduce a side yard setback from 7.5 to 3.5, a property located at 4644 Marching Lane in Lexington Park. This is Council District 2. The property is located, I'm sorry. Well, that was a mistake. I do apologize. Council District 4. I do apologize about that. It is located on Mooney, Campbellton, Fairburn, and Jones Road. So you're seeing here, as I mentioned before, that the property is located within its own property boundaries, but it's definitely encroaching upon the side yard setback. However, the properties do meet the minimum separation of the homes at 15 feet. As you're seeing here, they're requesting to have a 3.5 setback when the code requires it to be 7.5. This is the property that's currently that has been constructed. And this is the adjacent property showing you that 15 feet, or that 18 actual feet between the homes. There's a sign showing the modifications. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, applicant?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Michelle McCauley. I work with LaCroix Engineering, 3475 Corporate Way in Duluth, Georgia. I'm here tonight on behalf of our client, D.R. Horton. We have been before a couple of boards and this council at least one time on this matter. We've been working since the time that the error was found. It was a surveying error that caused the home to be built too close to the side of the property line. We've been working to remedy that situation without having to come before the city council for a modification. We had hoped originally to, we've been working on it, and the plan was originally to ask for a deferral tonight, but we're at a point now that we can ask for withdrawal. So we would respectfully request that you allow us to withdraw this application.
The applicant asked for withdrawal.
I didn't get a motion.
I didn't get a motion. Go ahead.
I make a motion that we accept the withdrawal. I think that's the best way.
Second. Properly moved and second. Any discussion? All those in favor? That passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle, for the vote.
Okay, Mayor and Council, this is an item you have not heard yet. This item is a use permit request for 6600 Old National Highway. The applicant, Herbert Humphrey, is requesting a use permit for a private school. There's a church on this location, of course, being used on Sunday on Council District 6. The property is located here on Old National Highway. You're seeing here that it's adjacent to existing zonings of R3, O, and I. The comprehensive plan identifies this community good work. Here you're seeing the entrance of the property. Also, you're seeing the, I believe this is the front where they're going to have the drop-off for the children. Of course, that is a code requirement to have drop-off. This is the rear where the classes will be located. And of course, this is showing you where the buffers are. There's a residential portion in the rear of this property, so there is a large buffer to separate those two uses. This is where the signs are located to show that they were in compliance and have the signs posted. So there are no site changes on this property. They will be using an existing 2,040 square foot structure. The code requires them to have 5 parking spaces and they have 190. There will be a drop-off location zone, as I mentioned, that the code requires for the children. They will be anywhere between the ages of 4 to 6 for education, and they will operate Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Showing you the traffic flow of the property. Here you're seeing, we wanted to make sure you saw where the classes would be. Of course, you're seeing the blue area that's in the black box. You're seeing where the classrooms will be in this location. This application meets all requirements. It has 12 items that they must meet in the code. They meet all 12. This area has a comp plan of community live work, and it is comparable to that. The applicant has provided a noise study, as you see in your packet, and an environmental site analysis. We have found there's no burden on this property. Staff has a recommendation to approve this property because there's a need for a 5-foot sidewalk, and you'll see that here. There has been pedestrian travel here where you're seeing where travel has been made, man-made basically. However, we have concerns that if a sidewalk is not placed here when it comes to children who are catching the bus or whatever, there's concerns in regards to that. As you see, there's 2 MARTA stops there, as well as surrounding neighborhoods. In addition to that, your planning commission recommended an additional condition where they're saying there should be no more than 50 children in this structure. And that concludes my report.
Okay, is the applicant here?
Yes.
Come on, Humphrey.
Greetings, Mayor and Council. My name is Herbert Humphrey, and I'm representing Edwina Waters, who's going to be the owner-operator, and New Life Presbyterian Church. If I may, I would like to make some corrections in what was presented. One was being, at the Planning Commission, there was a recommendation by staff to approve with the condition of providing a 5-foot sidewalk. We made an argument to the Planning Commission to eliminate that condition for the 5-foot sidewalk, and they didn't make a recommendation in addition to what the staff recommended. But what they did, they approved it with a commitment for the school not to have no more than 50 students. So I would like that correction. If someone's here from the staff who was at that planning commission.
Let me deal with that right now, because you're saying if there was 50 children, you would eliminate the sidewalk.
No. I'm saying that the planning commission did not impose the condition of the sidewalk that the staff recommended. They only imposed the condition that there will be no more than 50 students. And we made a compelling argument as to why, in this particular case, sidewalk would present not only a fiduciary a problem for the owner, but also why that sidewalk would not be in favor of the city with respect to with that requirement.
All right, you're looking pretty good over there. Go ahead.
Well, basically, the school will be for 4 to 6 year olds. And the students will be dropped off by their parents. It's a private school. No lunches will be provided on site. Parents will be required to provide lunches. It will operate from 7 to 6:30, of which 3 to 6:30 will be after school. But the argument that we made with respect to the sidewalk was that if we put sidewalk there, it will be for no use by the persons who are using the school because they are 4 to 6 year olds that are going to be dropped off by the parents. And also, if students do need transportation, the school is going to provide transportation for those students. Also, what the sidewalk does, it presents an island because basically the sidewalk will be located just along the frontage of the church. But each approach in other directions, there's no sidewalk, so it'll be an island to itself. And for the owner who's trying to provide a Christian education to 4 to 6 year olds who are leaving her daycare that has been operating in South Fulton and the Old National area for numerous years, I think over 25 years. 25 years, that this would cause an undue burden on her to provide sidewalk that would not be utilized. That money could, if allowed, to go towards the providing programs within the school for those 4 to 6 year olds. So that's the compelling argument that we made to the planning commission. Thank you. So if you would approve this with no conditions as it relates to sidewalks and the 50 students, we will comply with that and all the other requirements.
Thank you. I'll open the public hearing. All those who are for on this side, those who are against on this side. Everybody looking good. All right, at this time, I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Vicky, I think who's coming? Mr. Khalid. I'll accept the motion.
I'm gonna listen to that.
Well, let me say something to you. Yeah, go ahead. I think he's right about the sidewalks.
Okay.
I mean,
Because I like sidewalks.
you're talking about, I know you do, but you know, you're talking about 4 to 6 years old, they ain't gonna be waiting on the bus.
It's only.
It's good. Yeah, keep going. So that's just my comment. Ms. Gumbs, you want to say
Oh,
something?
no, I was just saying that it's an island by itself. Right. Just that one strip.
Yeah.
You know what, since we made
I wanted to know where this was relative to the sidewalk projects that we have implemented. How does this particular site play into that?
I was gonna say, I do believe we have sidewalks coming that way.
Ms. Gumbs,
From Flat Shoals to that say that's phase 2, correct?
It's a part of the design too.
Oh, it is?
It is. So that takes care of the sidewalk issue right there.
With that being said, I move to recommend this project without the sidewalks. I don't know how to say that, because I don't know whether there were other recommendations.
50 kids, 50 children then.
Second. With the 50 councilmen.
Did you get that right, Mr. Clerk? You want to retake that motion for us?
We got a motion made by Councilmember Fleet, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Baker, to approve this application based on staff recommendation to vote with the exclusion of the sidewalks.
Okay. That's properly moved to second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? That passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Humphrey.
Thank you.
Next item is a request for modification M18-005 in District 1.
Okay, this is an item for modification on property at 3900 Cascade Road. Jason Summer is requesting to modify case Z85-014 to construct a 4-story self-storage building in District 1. Tonight, you're only going to hear the modification request. However, we have identified that there are 2 additional items that will come before you at some point, but tonight is only to remove the height condition. I'll speak further on these items also, but to remove the freestanding sign condition as well as updating the adopted site plan to make it so that it's one site plan versus two. And I'll speak on that later. Again, like I said, concurrent variance and use permit will be something we'll speak later. The use permit will be coming before you on the 25th of September. Okay, so this is the property view from the intersection. Property as seen from Cascade Road. Property from Kimberly. And then this is the existing shared driveway. That is a existing condition that will continue, that it must be a shared driveway. Of course, it's you're seeing that this property has a number of requests, and there are signs that are identifying those requests. The property, which is zoned C1, has surrounding properties that are O and I or residential. And then the comp plan identifies the suburban 2 neighborhood. The future land use, as I mentioned before, has a suburban 2 neighborhood. As you know, this will allow for there to be a serving of the surrounding neighborhood as far as residents. And this is the site plan of the property. It's on 1.9 acres. They're proposing to have 4 stories, 100,000 square feet. There's one curb cut on Kimberly and another on Cascade Road. There's going to be, and it should be 23 parking spaces if I'm not mistaken. And then there's going to be 2 MARTA bus stops with sidewalks on the frontage of both. So then, as I mentioned, the site plan has 700 units of self-storage. It's going to be anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 square feet of office space with storage materials for sale, 200 square feet of community room, and then 3 employees maximum at a time. It does comply with the overlay, and you're seeing the office hours as well as the access hours. So here you're seeing what the existing conditions are versus the proposed. The conditions that are existing now are a 2-story maximum height. They're proposing to have 4. There are 2 separate site plans, and to make it more so that it flows better, there will be 1. And then in addition to that, there is a sign requirement for a 1 freestanding sign at 20 square feet maximum along the face, within a 4-foot maximum height. They're requesting a change from 20 to 32 square feet, and then from 4 to 6 feet in maximum height. The 1984 zoning, just to kind of give you an idea of what that was back then, it had the same height requirement. However, it was a little bit more linear on the signage. And then the zone adjacent properties within single-family districts allow for this to be zoned adjacent to, There's a 2-story height restriction, likely to match the height within the surrounding property structures, permitted structures, and then also all surrounding sites are either occupied by or zoned for commercial, office, or institutional. So you're basically seeing where even in the areas that were zoned residential, they're not using as residential. Applicants wish to develop the property under the same requirements and standards held in the surrounding properties. Staff recommended approval of this item.
Okay. Applicant?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, City Council, and thank you, staff, as well. My name is Jason Summer. I live at 4310 Granby Way in Marietta. I'm also a business owner in the city of South Fulton. I own a property at 7105 Old National Highway. We've come here today to ask for modifications on this property. We have brought several people in support of this initiative. Since April, we've met with over 60 people in the community, and we have overwhelming support. But in light of a neighborhood has come up to us and asked for some more information about this property and want some additional, it's Cascade Manor, which is about half a mile away, we would recommend deferring this until next council meeting so we have a chance to talk to this neighborhood about this. We thought it was the prudent thing to do since we really don't need a permit till the October permit meeting. And we thought that was the best thing, and it's the spirit of partnership. So I'll defer to the council.
How many people are here to speak to it? I'm curious.
Speak for it.
3, 4, 5 people are here to speak for it.
Let me speak against.
Two gentlemen are speaking against it.
Okay, then I would, I'll make a motion that we defer, that would allow you the opportunity to speak with residents.
Okay, thank you very much.
Properly moved to second. We ain't finished yet. Been properly moved to second. Any discussion? All those in favor? That passes. Now you can go.
Thank you.
All right.
The next case is a request for a variance, P18-005, also District 1, I believe, is at the same address.
Mayor and Council, this item is also requested to withdraw. Yes. That item is no longer needed in this request.
I'll make a motion to withdraw D 18-005, a concurrent variance request for 3900 Cascade.
Properly moved to second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? That passes unanimously. Mr. Clerk?
The first item under resolutions is a resolution to amend the city's holiday schedule to recognize Election Day as an annual official city holiday and for other lawful purposes. This is resolution 2018-047, sponsored by Councilman Lee.
I heard Councilwoman Gilliard ask where the fish was. I'm sorry, did you want to say something about that? Okay, the fish is in process. This would be no different than our city closing if we had a snow day, which we have done. Our city will not go bankrupt. The holiday and the Electoral College market our city as a progressive city and a voting city. And candidates are taking note of that. We will be the first ever in the state to have the whole day holiday. As I said, it's held in conjunction with the Electoral College, and I do think that is how we should market it. We do have a vote coming up on FIB, and we will have some education at the Electoral College about that. And doing things like this sends a signal to candidates like our candidates for governor. We will not have the FIB vote that we hope to have because our governor has vetoed it. But we will have some of those candidates there, and we should be asking about that. Additionally, we will have candidates there talking about the superintendent's race and what the superintendent does. One of the reasons that we became a city was because of our concerns over the schools. And you should know that Fulton County Schools, one of the big questions that we had last year was that Fulton County Schools will not be off that day, but Fulton County Schools will be off that day this year. And Superintendent Jeff Rose is actually asking us to support him in his legislative agenda to make Election Day an annual holiday. Unfortunately, because of a weird 1933 law, they have to approve their calendar every year. They can't just make it a holiday. So this would go a long way to supporting what the superintendents of our school systems are actually asking for, which is an annual holiday. Lastly, I will say that holidays are, well, that won't be lastly. I want to mention one of the reasons that it's important that we move on this now, or at least discuss it now. That is because we've been holding the writing of tickets for that day. We just heard in an earlier presentation that Public Works is thinking of starting their department the Monday before that holiday. So if we're going to be off that day, we need to just go ahead and make a decision about that. But holidays do represent our values, right? We value the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., and so we made that a national holiday. Took some fighting. Not everybody voted for it the first time, or the second time, or the third time. Some of the people that we're eulogizing now. And veterans, we think that veterans are important. We think they're so important that we gave them 2 holidays. Lastly, there are other things that we think that are important. In January, we had a bowl game crossing between UGA and Alabama. And the state of Georgia and the city of Atlanta thought that that was important enough to shut down all of their offices. The state shut down all their offices in Atlanta. Atlanta shut it down. Now, whether it was for traffic or for commerce or because half of the members of the legislature went to UGA, I don't know. But we thought that it was important enough to shut down the city for a football game. I think that it's important enough to pause and shut down our city, encourage other people to shut down because voting matters, especially this year. That's it.
Mr. Manager, what would you have for this?
I have to defer to the CFO who actually produces the FIS now, but I believe that our staff has received it and believe that there's a minimal impact, but I'll defer to the CFO on that.
You do have a FIS?
I believe that they're developing it, but he should answer that.
It's yet to be developed, it's not yet there.
Okay.
There's no fees attached to it.
Okay, if you say it isn't, fine. Said it was expensive with a little impact. So, okay.
Yeah, they've given it an initial look, but we haven't submitted it.
So where you have it, Mr. Malazzi?
Yes, because we've had this resolution for about 3 months.
Yes.
You know, I want to say this too, you know, when we have something like this, you know that the issue of FIS is always going to come up. And so, as long as we've been talking about this, we probably should have had one, Mr. Malazzi, by now.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would like to move that we hold this until the next meeting to give staff enough time to get the FIS to this entire council.
That's a motion, any second? Hearing no second?
I'll
She just second.
Yeah.
She seconded.
It's properly moved and second. Any discussion?
I would just ask that we keep holding on the tickets and the start date for Public Works until that next meeting.
Y'all cool? All those,
I have a,
any discussion? Still discussion?
I have a question for the CFO. Why hasn't a FIS been completed after all of this time when we've known that this resolution has been?
I think it was 1 week, 7 days. So unfortunately, the vice manager is on, but I think it was one of us, and it was supposed to go to the city manager. That's why we reviewed it. There was no real impact, but drafting it to sending it together, it was not yet done.
Well, I'm not understanding how it's
I hear you.
I'm not understanding how it's a minimal impact when you're adding a holiday to the holiday schedule.
So I would think that there would be no additional impact. And so what it would be is the cost for your employees for that day has already been created. And so there is no additional impact that you would be providing beyond the scope. Again, we'll wait on the FIS, but I would tell you if you've already passed a budget or if you've already identified the cost of your employees, then this would have no additional cost beyond that. But I mean, we can let the financial folks review it. I think from what Mr. Malazzi said just now is that they haven't submitted it yet, but they have reviewed it and see a minimal impact.
Okay, for all of you all out there who hear this term FIS, we're not talking about fish here, it's a financial impact study. Anytime we do something, we have to determine whether it's going to have an impact on the city or not. So that's what a FIS is.
So,
Ms. Jackson.
Mr. Mayor, so,
Ms. Jackson,
because I was a FIS, but okay. Can you put me down on this?
My question, if this has been holding for 3 months, why is the FIS not ready? Why was it not accompanied by this? And I heard you say something about 7 days, so I don't need 7 days.
The fees may be there, but when it comes to us, that's where we are counting. So we saw it about 7 days.
You saw it 7 days ago?
Mm-hmm.
So where had it been?
And nothing goes on the agenda without accompanying the feast. So that means before the feast was ready, it wouldn't have been on the agenda.
No, some things have come to us
prior, before that. But what I'm saying is this, someone has had this for 3 months.
Yeah, but that's how it got it was actually 11 days, 7 days. We're discussing with the city manager, said, since it's not enough, they need to go and say, yeah, it's less than 7 days we had.
Yeah.
She's allowed me to say something, but we passed an ordinance or resolution or whatever it was, that even if it doesn't have the FISC, it can move forward. All right, and so it's not exactly true when you say that it can't move forward without the FISC, it can.
And the only thing I'm saying is we know this has a financial impact, and we would need a FISC in order to, we can't just blatantly say, that's a blanket.
No disagreement there. I think we'll just make sure to have it on there by the next meeting. I think this also kind of highlights that piece that we talked about. I think Councilmember Khalid has been pretty adamant about us bringing back that process. I know that our city attorney has been working on that with us and giving us some insights, and we plan to bring something back during the September 11th work session. But that will probably be helpful as well, having that point person to shepherd it through. Right now, I think our staff receives it a variety of different ways, and then our CFO creates the FISC and delivers it back to you. And
So we will, next meeting, we will have everything with this.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Ms. Willis and Dennis Gunn.
Also, I want to know if there's going to be an impact with the municipal court calendar too. If we add an additional holiday and they have court dates already set, are we going to have to cancel the court docket, and what will be the impact of that?
So Tuesday is clear arraignment calendar. Councilman Khalid did give us a heads up, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, Ms. Donald.
Okay.
And so my understanding, my office has not received any tickets for November 4th.
Okay.
The issue that presents us though is the first appearance issue, and I've discussed that with Councilman Khalid, that, if it's a city holiday, we won't hold first appearance that day. So anyone who's incarcerated in the city of South Fulton on Monday will wait till Wednesday. So that my staff gets the holiday, they get the benefit of the holiday like everyone else will get the benefit of the holiday.
Okay, so let me, before you get it, so you said how, if you commit.
So we usually run court 6 days a week.
Yeah.
The only day that my staff gets the day off is Sunday or on city holidays, like Labor Day. We may have to work on Labor Day because that's a 3-day weekend, and we may have to work that holiday. But it's my general practice that if the city is closed and has a holiday, that my staff also gets the benefit of that holiday. It doesn't work. So we won't have any court, no first appearance. That means if you're arrested in the city of South Fulton on Monday before election day.
How much it costs a day?
$65 a day.
Impact.
So that would also be the same if you're arrested the day before Thanksgiving or the day before Christmas or the day before Memorial Day or the day before
Not necessarily. So for example, with Labor Day coming up, Labor Day falls on a Monday.
Right.
The law says you have to seat somebody in 48 hours and they're arrested without a warrant. So if someone is arrested on Saturday in the city of South Fulton, we're going to have to work on Monday. And I don't quite know what the financial piece of that is. I let the people who...
We don't have a fist for that, is what you're saying.
Well, no. I mean, I don't know. I don't know about holiday pay and all of that. I defer to the people who have that sort of expertise. But under the law, this is what I have to do. I don't have to do that. I'm not constrained to doing that because we had court the day before and the day after, so we won't butt up against the 48-hour rule. Does that make sense?
So someone's arrested on Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Excuse me, I got to revert back because Ms. Willis had the floor. I'm sorry.
So if I understand you correctly, you're saying that what he's asking is really not, my question is, when we take into account fiscal impact, I would say that we need to also take into account what happens with our court system if we add an additional holiday as well.
I understand, and I think maybe I misunderstood you. We won't have a plea and arraignment calendar that day. So what our normal plea and arraignment calendar generates in terms of revenue, it won't exist, for that particular day. But again, the numbers for that, I certainly defer to the people with that sort of training.
The expenses will stay in. The expenses will stay in place, but the revenues would not. But again, I think that is correct, that it is the same as any other holiday.
although I think Mr. Malazzi was pointing out something about this holiday versus a replacement.
This holiday is different from a replacement. If you are moving from one holiday to the other one, it's different with this one. Because this one, if you completely close, you still have to pay employees for that particular day. And at the same time, you have to expect revenues. It depends. There are revenues that employees will come to pay. If you close, they will still come. Even on that day you lose it, but they will still have to come to pay for the revenues. But there's impact. You have to pay a full day for all the employees.
Right, so this is adding a holiday, this is not
Yeah,
replacing it with
that's
another
different from replacing a holiday. When you have adding, it's the entire operation of the day for all employees on that particular day.
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Gunn?
So, just a little concern and point of clarity. If we're going to be using the FIST to leverage whether or not we're going to move forward with any of these resolutions, I don't see a FIST in here for any of these resolutions that are in here today.
So I'll tell you now, the council has changed this process a little bit from what we were doing before, so I hear you, but what council has asked and what we put together is that there is a 15-day process total that you can place something on the agenda, and as a team or a group in a body, you get an opportunity to review and discuss the ordinance or resolution itself before making a decision, and throughout that time, the FIST will then come back. You also ask that not having a FIST not be a hindrance to putting it on the agenda. And so that process is being adhered to and in place. You also ask that those FIST come directly from the fiscal body. And so we are adhering to all of those items, but this is just the first time that you've seen it. And so to not have it not be on the agenda, you don't have a FIST to accompany.
So my question is, for the remaining resolutions in the packet, do we have FIST available at this point in time?
I would like to respond to one of the resolutions, because that's not true. What
She still, hold it, Ms. Fuller. She still has the floor. She still has the floor, go ahead.
So my question is, are we still, for the FIST, there is no FIST for the resolutions in here. Do we have those available, or even have they been drafted?
The time we see the resolution is when they are on the agenda. We can only account for the FIST that have come to us with the resolutions. So if we didn't see the resolution, we didn't prepare the FIST.
And is that the same, and is that accurate for the ordinance as well?
That's correct.
So there are no FIST in this package to support any of the resolutions and ordinances?
For the ordinance, I know for the PCAD, those ones were already given.
Okay.
And we see the resolution, we see the ordinance based on the agenda, and we can only prepare that was given to us. So if there's no FIST, that means that the ordinance or resolution didn't come to us to prepare the FIST.
But, all right, now, okay, let me keep up. Mr. Cleese, thanks.
So I submitted this resolution a year ago. I brought it back up in March. I have emails from July, so this is way beyond the 10 or 15 days. I don't write a lot of resolutions, and I do feel like this resolution that I've written has undergone more scrutiny than anything else that we have done in the city. We've made a lot of financial decisions that are way more impactful than this election day holiday. And I think it's really cute that we're spending all of this time debating my resolution. And I think voting is important, but that's all I have to say about that.
All right, Ms. Lau.
And this is not, the comments I'm making now is not just unique to this. But I do think we, as a council and as a city, need to tighten up our processes and how things come to us. I know it was voted on, but at the same time, we should not be making any decision on anything without a fiscal impact. We talk about being transparent and wanting the public to understand when they come and they're not together, that's hard to communicate. And I do think going forward, that's something we need to revisit. And like I said, this is not about this because I don't know where we're going to land on this. But I think we have to revisit that because I've also seen it just in general where ordinances are, where they're not. It's not exactly clear.
Okay, that's Ms. Willis, and then Ms. Gilliam.
There's an insinuation that this were not asked for all resolutions and ordinances on this agenda, and that is simply not true. There is an ordinance and there's a resolution on this agenda that I am leading, and I repeatedly asked for a FIS, and I have every email I've asked for a FIS. So I did my due diligence. Now, if there's simply not a financial impact, then you would not have a FIS for some ordinances and some resolutions if there's not a financial impact. So in this situation, Councilmember Khalid is correct. He did write this resolution a year ago, but the difference this time is the last time he brought this before the council, he was replacing a holiday for a holiday. In this situation, he's not replacing a holiday for a holiday. He is adding a holiday. So if you're adding a holiday, then there is some type of fiscal impact. And I just think that that is something that we all should have knowledge of before we make a decision. I'm not saying no, yes, voting is important, but we should have all the information. I think that's a reasonable request.
I think, Councilmember, I think you're dead on, and all of these activities should have a FIS associated with them. I think the piece that I'd like to just kind of point out is so we've got to kind of look at this process of one, how staff receives this information, and then how they bring it back to you with the fiscal impact and these items that go on the agenda. And so there's been a lot of conversation. We've got a new ordinance. We've got a few things that we have to abide by. But we, both on the administrative side and the legislative side, just have to look at the process. So these items, assuming they were provided, let's say within the last 7 business days, should have a FIS to them, or they should have some type of notification to you guys of when the FIS would be ready, and then you make a decision whether you put it on the agenda or not. But your ordinance does clearly state that you can place these items on the agenda, and if it was passed and voted on, that it can be put on the agenda without a FIS, and you can simply review it and decide to take action, make edits, send it back, or ensure that you don't make a decision until the FIS. So I don't think this is an item that you want to get extremely up in arms about. I think you've all kind of adhered to the process, and you're reviewing it without a FIS because your ordinance or resolution allows you to. And so if you do not want to take action today, then you're not forced to take action without a FIS, and staff will hold ourselves accountable and deliver it during the next meeting.
Ms. Gilliam.
Mr. Donald, you said everything. You said everything I was going to say, because we did pass it, and we are following what we passed. And even though I kind of blurted out, where's the FIS, I forgot about the fact that we had changed it. And I believe that it came forward, twice before, and it had a FIS when it came before, in the past.
Yes, last year we submitted it both as a swap and as an additional holiday, and our CFO noted last year that it's submitted on that.
So we can't have it both ways. So we either leave the resolution as it is, as we passed it, more recently, or if we want to do something different, we change it. But here we have it before us, and we have what we passed quite recently to deal with. So what are we going to do?
Well, I'll entertain a motion.
I already have a motion on the floor.
Who's second?
Yes.
Second.
The motion.
Okay, let's vote on the main motion. Want to read that motion from Mr. Clerk?
The motion to hold this item to the next meeting, awaiting a FIS.
Okay. All those in favor? Hold it to wait till the FIS comes. That doesn't pass. It fails because of 4 votes. I'll entertain another motion.
I make a motion to approve this resolution.
Second.
Probably moved and second. Any discussion? All those in favor? That passes. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm glad it passed and everything, but I don't want to set a precedent like that.
Well, we're about to set a precedent,
No, we're not. We haven't got to him yet. We haven't got to him yet.
Well, we either do that or we retract what we passed a couple of weeks ago.
Wait till next meeting. Okay, that's okay. Let's go ahead and disclose.
The next item is on page 3 under Roman numeral 2, resolution to encourage compliance with state human trafficking notice requirements to enhance public safety and for other lawful purposes. Resolution 2018-050, sponsored by Councilmember Willis.
Please accept this motion.
I move that we approve resolution 2018-050, human trafficking notice requirement.
Second.
Probably moved to second. Any discussion?
I would say where's the physical.
And I will respond to that.
That don't. Go. All those in favor?
I did have a question.
Discussion. Go ahead.
So, Councilwoman Willis, I do want to commend you on taking this stance because this is often a situation that, or issue in our community that's often overlooked because we get that stigma of, it doesn't happen in our area. So I do commend you for doing that. My question is, with the $500 fine, did you compare that to any other?
That's a state law.
That's a state law?
That's a state law.
Okay.
What this legislation does, make it a municipal law, if you're cited in our city boundaries, then of course it will be heard in our municipal court. Right, yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? If no, all those in favor? That passes unanimously.
This is a copy of the sign that I want to thank our communications director. She did draft a sign specific for the city of South Fulton. So I printed out a few signs so that we can start educating our businesses and passing them out to our businesses. And I plan to have a few blown up as I work with Chief Meadows to launch a campaign. And if you don't mind, Chief Meadows would like to talk about some of the plans we have to push this and educate our community.
You want to do that now?
It will be brief if you don't mind. Yes.
Chief, are you going to be brief?
No, I'm a Baptist preacher.
Now, I too wanted to commend Councilwoman Willis for taking this on. It is a huge problem in the region, and it's not just the city of South Fulton problem. It's certainly a problem that affects the whole region. One of the things that we want to try to educate our public on is what a human trafficking victim looks like. Certainly, as we begin to unfold this campaign, we want to make sure that the police department is very active in trying to help educate our citizenry on what to look for throughout the region when it comes to these victims. And so, congratulations on getting it passed, and we look forward to working with you and the council and the mayor to try to help educate this citizens.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
About your messaging, Horace, are you going to run ads? How are you going to get this information out? Are you going to do a walk?
Stay tuned, I'm working on it.
Yeah, she's putting together a PSA, and we certainly expect to be part of that.
Okay.
All right. Okay, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, the next item under Roman numeral 3 is a resolution promoting economic growth and employee morale, establishing an increased minimum wage for City of South Fulton employees and for other lawful purposes. This is co-sponsored by Mayor Pro Tem Baker and Councilman Khalid under Resolution 2018-051.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this resolution.
I second.
Discussion. There is no fiscal on this one, right?
What?
Now, if y'all approve this without a fiscal, I'm gonna run it back. Because it's definitely, I mean, we're talking about a financial impact, definitely a financial impact on this one. So, Ms. Woods, go ahead.
I would just like, if you don't mind, I want to yield to Councilmember Baker because he did explain to me when I asked him about it, the financial impact, and it was what we call a de minimis in the accounting world. It was like 3 cents. And so could you explain?
Well, currently, it's my understanding from the CFO that the lowest paid person in our city makes $14.97 currently.
So you raising a penny?
It would be 3, but more than anything, I think that, I made the motion, but I still just say what I feel. I just feel like we as city leaders, we often tell our people where we want to go and how we want to get there. We never really tell them what's in it for them. What's in it for you to help us get where we want to go. And I think that ultimately this will be something big for morale in our city. I understand what he's saying, but I think that there was one person who spoke prior to this. Nobody in my district or nobody else outside of one gentleman that I've heard has been in opposition. I've only heard great things about it. The direction that we're going in the city that we're building is going to make $15 still look like nothing. So to have a $15 minimum in our city, even if right now it's just a 3-cent raise for our lowest 60 or 84 employees, if I'm not mistaken, is a minimum.
Ms. Willis.
So my question is, I'm going to defer back over to the CFO. Is this really a 3-cent raise for 68 employees?
So 3 cent difference was for specific department, also was for fire department. So we explained we have 3 categories of hourly. You have people that are receiving for 80 hours. You have some that are 84 hours. You have some that is 106 hours. So if you have for fire department, which was specifically asked, they have about 41 HIs here, about 41 divided by 106, it comes up to 1497. But if you divide the same amount of per year with 84, it becomes up to $19 something. If you divide by 80 hours, it becomes up to $21. So it depends which hours are you applying. There are some departments that are receiving much less. You get into Parks and Recreation. There are some that are receiving much less than $14. So $14.97 is department specific.
Hold on a minute. Okay, Ms. Guns.
Is it possible that Ms. Henderson can come to the microphone?
Our new director.
Our new director of human resources. Give her a hand, guys.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
So, while it is an admirable thing to want to pay employees $15 an hour, and Mr. Malazzi is correct, currently we have about 27 employees that works in Parks and Rec that earn around $14 an hour. So you're looking at the current state when you're talking about raising the salaries to $15 an hour. Our pay in class adopted plan, the lowest grade is a grade 6, which I believe is $28,000. No, $27,730, which equates to $13.33 a year. I'm sorry, $13.33 is the hourly minimum. But that's not to say that in the future we won't have a classification that pays
less than that. So when you talk about raising the salary to $15 an hour, you have to look at sustainability, affordability, and appropriateness. So one of the public speakers mentioned something about having a high school diploma and coming right out and making $15 an hour. That's a good incentive, but can the city afford to do that? Is it appropriate? And can we sustain it? Additionally, you have to look at compression. And so while you pay somebody $15 an hour off the street, there currently may be a supervisor that's making $60 an hour or $15.50. And so that will impact morale as well. So it's not just looking at what we could pay hourly, because you would have to look at all of the classifications when you make something, an adjustment that substantial.
Okay, Ms. Rao.
Thank you for that. I really want to, I go back. We have to look at this. We can't look at these issues in a vacuum. We are about to look at, looking at a budget for next year. We need to understand the implications of what we're voting on, not just now in the present, but in the future. So thank you for that information. And please, City Manager, bring us back a process, even if we have to relook at what we're doing, because, we're getting stuck on it, literally every piece of legislation.
I do want to add also that our current class and comp plan, it starts at a grade 1, and I believe it's like $26,000 or $25,000 a year. Right, and so it's even lower. And so when you say that you want to pay $15 an hour, that's $31,200 a year. So our minimum salary would be $31,200 a year. And so the next grades on up, you talk about really increased salaries.
All right, Ms. Willis.
Thank you. We didn't have all of that information. You put in the budget that we should do a paid and class study. And I would like, if it's okay, to ask that we hold off on this until we at least do that paid and class study. I do think, I would love for us to be we are a progressive city, and I do want to get our employees up to wage 15, but we also have to be fiscally responsible in doing that. So if it's possible, will you please hold, I don't want to vote no on this, but can we at least hold it until we get some more information? Councilmember Baker.
I had a number for this year. What was that number for the impact this year?
Less than 84 people? How many people this year?
About 84.
About 84 people?
That's in fire only.
Yeah, fire, everybody, it's only grounds and park maintenance workers that earn, or in lifeguard, they're all in fire. I'm sorry, they're all in parks and recreation that earn a little bit less than $15 an hour.
A little bit less.
Right. They're like 14.
She still has the floor.
Because of their hours, working hours.
Yeah, so I would like to, is there a motion on the floor? Can I make a friendly amendment?
We're in discussion.
May I make a friendly amendment that we hold this resolution until we get more information from the pay and class study?
That's a good motion.
Yeah, because the motion is to approve, so he would need to withdraw his motion.
Oh, okay, so.
Yeah, so y'all have to vote on that.
Okay. Ms. Jackson?
Ms. Henderson, actually, because I know you have to calculate over the year to come down to, break it down to the hourly, so you actually answered what I needed.
Okay. Mr. Khalid?
All right, Ms. Henderson, you said that we have paying classes that start as low as $13.30, is that correct? Or there's something lower than $13.30?
There are. And so unfortunately, I don't have the full paying class with me where grade 1 starts. So in our adopted paying class, an administrative clerk and a maintenance worker are at a grade 6. And that minimum starts at $27,730, which equates to $13.33 an hour. So that's grade 6. So there are 5 other grades below that earn less than that.
is there anyone currently employed by our city for 1330 or less, grade 6? Grade 6 or below, is anyone in our city using those?
No, there are no
There's
classifications
no one
that
in our
are,
city using those.
there are no classifications in grade 5 or below on our adopted paying class.
All right, so currently, there are no employees that are making less than $14 an hour.
That is correct.
Okay, so.
Yes, the lowest is 14.14.
All right, so our lowest paid employee is currently making 85 cents below the mark. Just want to be clear, we talked about all these other paid classes that no one is employed by. That's one. But I also do want to talk about sustainability and affordability. The more successful we are as a city, the more expensive it will be to live here. We have paved a few roads, set up a few departments, and our property values have gone up, and people have already come to the mic and complained that their taxes are going up. Wait in 5 years when we have 250 police officers and all of these amenities, it's going to be really expensive to live here. And I think if no one is currently making less than $14.15 or 14 cents an hour, we need to make sure that no one makes less than that going forward. Because the people who build this city deserve to be able to afford to live in it. And the people who voted us in office also deserve to be able to afford to live here. I don't want us to become Atlanta where 20 years we have built a city for people who aren't in this room, that take advantage of all of the work that we're putting in. Most of all, our employees. I don't think any city of South Fulton employee should make less than $15 an hour from this day forward. Because at $31,000 after taxes, that's not a lot of money for a single person. God forbid if you have kids or you're raising a family. I just think that we need to make sure that our city is affordable for the people who are building it to live here. And with that, if Councilman Baker wants to hold it, I support holding it. If he wants to go forward, I support going forward. But I do think that we just need to keep in mind, again, the more successful we are as a city, the more expensive it will be for all of us to live here.
Let me just say this. This is why I always think we need FISC. I've heard 3 different things since I've been sitting up here. One was 3 cents. One was 3 cents. Who said he said. But when I went to him, he didn't say it. He started talking about the fire department. Well, the fire department is not total of the employees that we have. Then I'm looking, somebody says 84 people will be affected. This is why we need a FISC. I don't know how many people gonna get that 3 cent raise. 84. If that's what it is. But this is why we sit up every day talk about we need to make decisions based on data. We said that earlier in the meeting. We don't have no data. We all over the place. So I just think that we need to, if Mr. Baker, would you consider that let's give us an opportunity to get all the information we need to do to make a concerted effort to prove or disapprove this. That's just my thinking, sir. Well, we have a motion on the floor.
If it comes back up, I'm okay with it. If it's voted down, I understand it. I just want the city now to see the picture that's being painted of what we do for the least of us. And the picture's still being painted. Step back, look at it, but we've spent a whole lot of money over the past year and a half. We've given a lot of $100,000 salaries, and we're talking about our parks and rec people probably making too much to impact us. So the picture's still being painted, and I understand however anybody falls on this fault.
Well, let me paint the picture for you a little further. We didn't have to accept not one person from Fulton County to come work for us. Didn't have to do it. But what we said was, you come on. You could have been the worst employee Fulton County had. But come on, and we'll give you 90 days to see if we want you or not. So don't tell me we didn't do right by people, because we did.
Mr.
I got the floor.
What were you talking to you? Go ahead.
And we still today continue. If you really know what they need you to stand in front of them sometime and say thank you for the job you did. So if we're gonna start talking about data and transparency and all this stuff, we got to practice what we're preaching. I'm just not. I mean, he may bring me a fist back, Mr. Baker, and I say, Mr. Baker, you're right. I'm going with you.
Well, you know what?
You know,
I got you.
But
Mr. Donald is still saying he got 90 days. He got 90 days for anybody that come in unworthy of working.
I think the city manager has something.
So I think, just a brief comment, I believe that the things that the council are doing that is really focusing us on becoming a more progressive city are, admirable, and it's definitely a great representation of the people that have put you guys in office. And so I also believe, I think I've had some conversations with a lot of different council members that in the district, not just for city employees, but for the city as a whole, we did a progressive move to 15, to fight for 15 by 2020. And so I think the effort is appropriate. I also think that if this resolution was done focused only on this year and had an expiration date or something for just those employees who hit a certain class, which is our lowest class now, it might be something that we could also move forward. And so I don't know if the council has had an opportunity to explore all options. And so I don't know why you would postpone it or why you would not, but if you are willing to consider a recommendation that actually provides, because I think you're all on the same page, that you want to do the best by your employees, and also send a strong message to the businesses who employ our citizens that they should also step it up and provide quality wages. And so I think you're unified on that. And so I don't want the conversation to go a little left, because you're all on the same page about moving our city forward. And so if you are going to postpone it, what I would ask is, one, Mr. Malazzi and his team provide a FIS that gives all of you the information that you need to make a decision, but also maybe a staff recommendation that provides, regardless of what the FIS says, maybe a progressive move towards 15 in a similar manner that others. And I don't know if that's the most appropriate, but I do want to kind of capitalize that all of you seem to be focused on ensuring we do the best for our staff now, which I think they would very much appreciate, but then also sending this very strong message to the general public, which is also just as important, that all businesses need to be prepared to provide a quality wage to keep up with where our city is going. I think that's where Mr. Baker is trying to move forward.
And I accept his recommendation.
Okay.
I do as well, and what I think needs to be added to it is that we do need to have HR be a little more involved in it so that we can see the full impact of the decision.
Okay.
So I do think that that holding is not saying, no, we don't want to do it. I just think it needs to be more thorough, and we might need to really, I would like to ask my colleagues to relook at the ordinance. I believe it was an ordinance that we wrote for FITS to see whether, and we passed it, to see whether or not that's what we're going to really need moving forward, whether or not we need to tweak it or do something to it as well.
Ms. Rowe.
City Manager Donald, I really appreciate those comments, because sometimes I think when we're talking about these issues, we don't want to find ourselves voting some of these issues down, and we need to listen as we try to move to the center to try to address everybody's needs. Want to make a fiscally responsible decision. I definitely You know, I'm still torn about the whole election day. I totally support that. But at the same time, I don't want to be making decisions without that information. So I think if we all work towards that, we'll do better by the citizens across the board.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor.
Well, did you say that you accept the recommendation?
No, I mean, that's a motion still on the floor.
Okay, any further discussion? Mr. Khalid?
Just one final comment. I really don't mean to be combative, but I have seen us in one council meeting give away tens of thousands of dollars to a single employee. And so I just want to make sure that if we are going to be this concerned about our fiscal responsibility when we're giving raises out to people at the bottom, then we need to have all of these same numbers, all of these same data when we're giving it out to the people at the top.
And as we get close to this vote, I want the employees to know that all of us up here want to do right by employees. I mean, we really do. So there's nobody up here to make that argument. So at this time, with no further discussion, I'll ask the vote. If there was for lack of 3 votes. 4 votes, rather.
So now we're going to amend it
Yeah, you said it again. I don't have to amend it, I just bring it back.
He's bringing it back. She was bringing it back to the recommendation. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Baker. All right. Next, Mr. Clerk.
Roman numeral 4, a resolution to call for a voter referendum on the authorization of the sale of alcoholic beverages for on-premises consumption on Sundays from 11 a.m. until 12:30 p.m. at certain licensed establishments, to regulate and provide for the calling of a special election and to call a special election thereon and for other purposes. This matter is co-sponsored by Councilmember Rao and Dunn under Resolution 2018-052.
This particular resolution is in line with Senate Bill 17 that passed the General Assembly, which allows the residents to vote on whether, it's called the Sunday Brunch Bill. It would allow the voters to determine if alcohol can be sold as early as 11 a.m. on Sunday. As we talk about bringing restaurants to the city and the like, I think this is something we should look at as an economic development tool. But I do think the residents need to weigh in on it. So this particular resolution will put this issue on the ballot in November. We already have 2 other issues on the ballot. And we're going to pay the county the same amount to hold the election. So this would be in line with the residents voting on the Freeport exemption, the Sunday brunch bill, and Fulton Industrial.
And I think one of the precedent, or I guess progressive thing is that a lot of the other cities are moving this direction as well. We definitely believe that this will be restaurants, it will definitely spark economic development and then also entice those type of restaurants to our city. I'm not saying actually, we're in support of everybody want to have happy hour before church service ends, but that's not the case. Again, this is about definitely, if you want to enjoy milk and honey, you can go with brunch and have a mimosa or something like that on a Sunday. So this is exactly what this bill is. So we want to put it on the ballot. We want you all to weigh in, and hopefully it will pass. Did you want to say something?
No, I ain't touching this. Can I get a motion, please? I didn't mean it that way.
I move that we accept resolution 2018-52 for the Sunday brunch bill.
Second.
Probably moved to second. Any further discussion?
Just want to know that I'm in full support of mimosas and bellinis. You can start as early as 10.
Let's vote, please. That passes unanimously. Moses at the back of the room. Okay, that passes unanimously, sir. Next.
First ordinance was held during the adoption of today's agenda, so Roman numeral 2 for second reading, an ordinance to regulate the use of City of South Fulton purchasing and credit cards, enhance operational efficiency, and for other lawful purposes. This is co-sponsored by Council Members Ralph, Willis, and Jackson under ordinance 2018-032.
I'll accept the motion.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2018-032.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded, in discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor? That passes unanimously. Mr. Clerk.
Roman numeral 3, second reading, an ordinance establishing the City of South Fulton Public Arts Commission and for other lawful purposes as amended from the previous meeting. This is co-sponsored by Mayor Edwards, Mayor Pro Tem Baker, and Council Member Rao.
I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept ordinance 2018-033.
Second.
It's properly moved and seconded, in discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor? Hold up, we got two discussions.
So, with this particular ordinance, this will go in effect ASAP? Okay. And they have, okay. That's.
Mr. Khalid?
And I do see the funding for the Arts Commission will be 3% of the motel taxes. So that is the total funding for this entire commission.
It's actually 2%. State law allows the first 3% of general funds from from general funds to go to general purpose. We picked art for 2% of that. I left something on the table. And anything above 3% has to go towards tourism. And I think Councilwoman Willis is working on something. Is that correct?
Wait, so I'm sorry, you're saying that this line 195 should be 2% of the total amount?
It was always 2%.
It says 3%.
So the amount is 3%. That was what was moved, or that was what was requested at the previous meeting.
Okay.
But I'd like to clarify the percentages. So you have the 3% that's a 3% on the taxation, and then you also have a 3% which is of the total amount collected, which is different. So the way we have it worded, the total amount collected, you were taking 3% of that to give to the art fund. So you are not collecting an additional amount, you're just getting more of what's collected.
That's correct.
Correct.
That's correct.
I might have stated, that's what I understood it to be.
Mr. Khalid, you have.
What's collected for?
Hold up. I'm good. Ms. Willis?
3% of what? What's collected for what? For hotel motel tax. Okay, collections. Okay, so we're going to take that and put that in the public arts fund. Public arts fund? Correct. If you pursue it to this ordinance. Okay.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor.
I think the CFO had a comment.
I would like to involve our economic development manager to speak something because the 7%, 5% we have is divided into groups. So this will not be 3% of the total collection, will be 3% of the 1 to 3% according to the 3 divisions. So it's not the total collection 3%.
I get more confused.
Very confused now.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Just to provide a little bit of clarity. So I was the Executive Director of the Convention and Visitors Bureau where I came from. So I actually helped the city introduce the legislation for the city to impose hotel motel tax. You actually have 3 provisions by state law that allows you to collect hotel motel tax. The first part of the vision, the law relates to the 1 to 3%, which you can collect and do anything that you want to with it. You can buy police cars, you can do art fund, anything you want with 3%. 4 and 5 is another set of laws that dictate what you can do with 4% and 5%. And those are more restrictive. Those are for tourism, marketing, promotion, those things to draw tourism to the city. And then you have 5, 6, and 7 that are more restrictive, where you have to get a DMO, but then 1.5% of that, it's going to get a little complicated here, you have to use for tourism product development. And the way that I tell council to look at that is, that's to build stuff. So you can, in theory, use that 1.5% to do art, and do gateway signs, you can build a museum with it. So that 1.5% is for construction. So you can't take 3% of the total collection. You can only take 3% of the 3%. Does that make sense? So the 1 to 3%, you can take 3 of that. But by law, you have to dictate other monies that has to be allocated for tourism product development.
And that's the ordinance, Mr. Mayor. And this is the ordinance, I don't know why this went, that's the ordinance that she is working on my behalf. We're working on a hotel motel ordinance. And if you go back and look at the tape, when I spoke about hotel motel tax, I specifically said that you can only use a portion of that. It's state law required, what he just said, state law only allows you to use it for tourism. For example, East Point is doing all their Wednesday wine. Yes, it is, it's state law.
He just said something.
East Point is using their hotel motel tax to promote their Wednesday wine downs. And that's what they're doing, because they help promote the city.
Okay,
So is this right?
I'm sorry, hold on, are you finished, Ms. Willis?
Is this legislation right?
About the 3%? So my understanding was that you guys had one fund, because I ran this by finance. It sounds like now that there are 3 separate funds that you're holding for these taxes.
It's still the same, but you see how you use it. You can use that 3% of the up. You have 1 to 3%, then you have 3 to 5%. So the one that you can use anyhow you want is the one with 3%. So it will be 3% of the first 1 to 3%. 1 to 3%, the first
so
one.
this should be 3% of the 3% that you were collecting.
Exactly.
Right, the first 3%. Yeah, and that's the way that it's working.
Correct.
That is correct.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Go ahead.
My question was just, was it gonna be enough? Whatever the percent of the percent is, I will let y'all all work that out, because I'm already confused, but, is that going to be enough to fund this department?
Let me say this to you too, Mr. Lee, even in Fulton County, when we built, 1% of the cost of that building was public art. So that's another avenue. Okay. Then that you can look into that sometime. Okay? Mr. Clerk, where were we? Do we have a motion on the floor?
You do. You got a motion made by Councilmember Rao, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Baker to approve the ordinance for second reading.
Okay, let's vote. That passes. Okay, Ms. Jackson, go with it, Ms. Jackson. Where are you voting now, Ms. Jackson? Okay, that's unanimous.
Okay. Roman numeral 4 for first reading, an ordinance amending Title 12, licenses, permits, and business regulations of the City Code of Ordinances to discourage human trafficking, preserve the health and welfare of the city, and for other lawful purposes. That's sponsored by Councilmember Willis under ordinance 2018-034.
This is just the first read, but what this is the ordinance that codifies human trafficking, and it will allow for, this ordinance will give our police officers the right to cite.
All right, Ms. Clerk.
All right, that takes you to your next item under action items, Roman numeral letter D. The you do have a request approval of Georgia Department of Transportation, GDOT Local Maintenance and Improvement Grant, LMIG, presented by Fulton County Department of Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors.
Good evening.
We got the presentation now. The local maintenance and improvement grant, most known as the LMIG program, is a program that most municipalities and counties use to do resurfacing projects in general. A little bit of the background on what this LMIG program is. It's a GDOT funded transportation program and services that aid local governments, agencies in maintaining the local transportation system. What it does, it helps to for road resurfacing, intersection improvements, bridge repairs, sidewalks, sign, and striping, and other types of small infrastructure for transportation purposes. With regards to the schedule on how did we get the funds for the city of South Fulton, in June 2018, Georgia DOT sent a letter to South Fulton indicating that South Fulton will receive $1,027,771 in lieu of the city of South Fulton providing a 30% match of that. The city of South Fulton will have to submit a list of projects to Georgia DOT before January 2019. From the date of receiving the grant, the project must be completed within 1 year if it's just a simple project, or within 3 years when it comes to large scale projects. So what that means is that the check will come into the city of South Fulton most typically around the month of January. And we typically have the project list already approved and sent to Georgia DOT, and we line it up with a contractor and we start resurfacing around the month of March. And our hope is to complete all the resurfacing before the summer of 2019. A bit of background information. How does LMIG is allocated to all the cities and counties? There's a formula that the state provides to Georgia DOT, and it's self-explanatory how it's calculated. So it's a factor, and that factor is applied to the funds that the state receives. With regards to what Fulton County in the past received with LMIG funds, I just listed 2015 through 2019. In 2015, we got about $830,000. 2016, about the same amount. In 2017, due to an increase of revenues, I believe, from the state, we increased the amount to $1,060,000. In 2018 to $1,156,000. And in 2019, it went down a little bit because we reduced the FIB corridor, the FIB that's annexes, that's still with Fulton County. So in 2019, the city of South Fulton will receive a check for $1,027,771.30. The local match is 30%, which equates to $308,331.39, which I believe is part of the 2019 budget presentation done for the city of South Fulton. Just to show and display to you what we've done throughout the years with all the funds that we received. We have a good number of projects and lists that is self-explanatory by the charts and how we have converted this, now the city of South Fulton with better roads that allows drivers and to drive much better, and of course being safer roads for the city of South Fulton. And it's our intention to continue doing this and ensuring that the roads are kept at a good level of service. The proposed roads for 2019, we have looked at the roads that we have in South Fulton. We have looked at what we've done in the past, connectivity purposes, and the PCI conditions of the road. So we're promoting Dimuni Road, East Stub, and Cascade Palmetto, which is about 8.8 miles with a total estimated cost of about $1.3 million. So that will allow us to complete the 2019 resurfacing project for South Fulton. What we're asking tonight is to approve this grant. It is recommended by staff, and we believe that's a real good program for the city of South Fulton. We've done, we have partnered with Gerald DOT very well. We have complied with all the requirements, and it's our intention to continue providing the same level of services or at a much level, greater level. With that, I'll be glad to respond to any questions that you may have.
Where is Butler Road on
Butler Road, are you referring to Butler Road at Stonewall Town, or just Butler Road by itself?
I'm talking about Butler Road. Where are we on the resurfacing of Butler Road?
Butler Road is going to be resurfaced under T-Splits.
Under T-Splits, the second stage of T-Splits, right?
Yes.
All right. This is great.
Thank you so much for asking that question, Mayor. That is the most common question that I get. You know, people will ask me, when is my street getting paved? It looked like they stopped at my block. They came all the way up to my block and then they stopped. There is a PDF on my website, that lists all of the streets that were going to be paved under this year's T-Plus. But as for the future years, I have not seen that list. It would be really great if we could get a list to get out to residents so they can just look it up and see, okay, this block in my street is going to get paved in 2021 or 2020, because people are not quite understanding. I don't know, there may be some public education that we could do at the Electoral College or whatever, but people are not quite understanding how you might come all the way down the street to a particular point and then you stop. They don't know why you stopped. They don't, when you're going to pick up and finish. And so we just need to do a little education on that. But my question is, could you explain GDOT's responsibility for our right-of-ways after November, after the transition?
In accordance of statute, the cities are responsible for maintaining anything outside the road. So if you have a road at the edge of paving, you have a curb and gutter, then you have sidewalks, and then you have a small part of shoulder for maintenance purposes. So it's typically about from 10 to 12 feet from the edge of paving if you have sidewalks on the road. So municipalities are to maintain that area. Georgia DOT will only maintain where the vehicle drives through.
So just to be clear, on roads like 279 on National Highway, 29 Roosevelt Highway, 14, all of these state routes, are you saying that we will have additional maintenance responsibilities after November for those that GDOT used to take care of?
That's correct. Only on roads that are within the city of South Fulton, because Roosevelt Highway, it goes to different municipalities, so we'll have a small section.
So I just want to make sure that we understand that, and I'd ask our city manager. I know he's going to talk about it later. We're going to talk about it now, but when we are centralizing all of these services, including this grass cutting, that we have factored in the cost for this extra grass. That's it.
All right. One of the streets I can ask you about. Derrick Road, is that in phase 2? I told you about that. T-Spot phase 2 is Derrick Road.
When we talk about T-Splits,
I know I'm off a little bit, but I just wanted to know if you knew that Derrick Road was on.
Oh, the Derrick Road, I'm sorry. The Derrick Road is going to be resurfaced this year.
Okay, good.
Yes.
That's enough for me. Okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Mr. Clerk? Oh, that was an action item, wasn't it?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, let me see, I'll entertain a motion
I make a motion to approve the GDOT local maintenance and improvement grant submission by the Fulton County Department of Public Works on behalf of the city of South Fulton.
Properly moved to second, in discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor? Are you, okay, that passes unanimously. Are you saying? Okay, it passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, the next item is the monthly city manager report.
Mr. Manager. Mr. Manager.
Yes, I want to just make sure. So there's a MOA that has to be signed by the mayor. And so what I'm just trying to make sure is that the agreement that you guys are clear and that it's in the minutes that by accepting this resolution, you are authorizing the mayor to sign so we don't have to come back. Because I think we're,
All right.
And so
Okay,
we are clear on, okay.
Yeah, we're clear on that.
Okay.
You were going to have those who were left to give their budgets at the time of the city manager's report. So, Mr. Clerk, if you'll call the first one.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. Okay, first one.
May I ask a question in regards to the city manager?
Okay, go ahead.
The only question I have is, what is the status on local government?
The release of the, what is it, phase 2, that and 311 are included in that. So it hasn't changed. We're on track from what I understand.
Okay, so what was the date that I didn't get? And the website looks good from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and you see they're making improvements on it, so it's continuing. Would it be okay for me to follow up with you on that tomorrow or during our meeting, and then we notify the whole council, because I just don't have the date.
Okay.
I know that one of them is further along than the other, but I don't know if it's the C-Click Fix or the Open Gov, but one of them will beat the deadline, the other one will be at the deadline, but we'll get you that information. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, call the first.
Okay, the first one is the mayor's office.
Is it the mayor's office?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's okay.
Mayor and council, right? It's both. Yeah, not just his, it's his office. Oh, okay.
Okay, we're gonna make it short. Right.
Yep.
All of them.
There is one note, just wanted to highlight. So this is the budget, the overview of the budget as we have presented it. But I did want to make mayor and council aware, so I'll be honest with you, I provided you some documents of some improvements, and I think one of them, which I hope you guys don't push back on too much, is to ensure that the council, mayor and council budgets are actually increased. So I think this year, since I've been here, one of the things that I've seen is that, you know, when it comes to travel, I know you guys wouldn't have known this, but you're required to have certain certifications and understand certain things about local government, attend all of these professional development activities. And so the original budget that you were provided in FY18 did not appropriately provide for that. And so what our goal is to actually increase that so that it is a lot easier for you to participate in things like GMA, the National League of Cities, and then some of the activities that support our demographics like NFBA and other activities. And so while you're going to see what was in our budget book, it is our goal to increase the operational budget of council through the budget process. And so I hope you guys would bear with us on that and not push back as heavy on that.
I thought my introduction, the city manager has already said, so we should go with the mayor. So we found out that the priorities are the same for the mayor as well as for the council. They are the same.
Before we move forward, is that not in this packet?
No, that's what I was.
We don't have, where is it?
We don't have.
This council?
Yeah, those were just passed out today.
It's in the add-on.
It's in the add-on. City council.
I have my add-on and all I
It
have
should be in your.
There's not the mayor's, budget.
I don't have it either.
Well, the slide that he's on now.
It's only 3 slides.
Go ahead, I don't have it, I'm looking at the slide. Go ahead, Mr. Malazi.
We have to improve parks and recreation. These ones will be rearranged depending on how council you make it to be the first priority. It would be number 2, improve public safety, police and fire, economic development, planning, update comprehensive plan, creation and implement branding and message. This day, as the city manager has already said, this is what was included in the budget book. And these numbers will eventually change the time it's being approved. So professional services is $1,000. Mobile phones is $1,200. Official admin, $6,429. Travel is $3,000. Education is $3,500. Dues and fees is $10,300. Office supplies is $5,000. Hospitality is $1,500, and postage is $400, for a total of $32,320.
Question.
Go ahead.
Personnel.
Can you go back? Whose budget is this?
This is the mayor's budget. The council budget is to come. We'll follow this one.
Go ahead.
Fiscal year 19 personnel cost to include executive assistant. Difference in benefits area is a reflection of insurance selection. We have got different selections. There are only 2 people in the mayor's budget. That's the mayor as well as the executive assistant. Moving South Fulton forward, policy development, capital investment, investing in public safety, economic inclusion, world-class service delivery. That's the end of the mayor's budget. The next one is the council's budget.
Right.
As I said, that the priorities are the same. And this is the council's budget. The manager said that this is what was included in the budget book, but eventually at the end of it, it will not be this budget. So what you are seeing here for council member is applicable to every council member. It's the same. It's across the board.
So
Go ahead. She's about to say something.
So if this is not going to be the budget, why are we presenting this right now?
Because this is what was originally presented to you. Everything is going to change at the end of the manager's budget presentation. I'm going to give you the outlay of what will be the procedures before you adopt the budget. What I think that will take place, I will bring that one as soon as we finish it.
Okay, go ahead.
So the professional service is 1,000, phones is 1,200, printing and binding 500. Travel is 3,000. Training is 3,500. Fees 500. Office supply is 1,000. Hospitality is 1,000. Books and periodicals is 200. And postage 500 for a total of 12,300. Personnel expenses, fiscal year 2019 personnel costs include legislative aid. Difference in benefits are a fraction of insurance choice. There are 7 council members, plus the clerk, there's 7 legislative. Policy development, capital investment, investing in public safety, economic inclusion, world-class delivery.
I'm sorry, could you go back really quickly? So you're saying in the council budget, there's the city council people, the aides?
This is just the organizational chart, how it is. You have the city council, and below that you have on the other side, you have the city clerk.
I want to ask, are the personnel for everyone that we see included in the city council budget? Or are they in a different budget?
Say it again, can you ask again?
Where are the personnel budget lines for each one of these?
Personnel are included in the city council's budget. As you will see that most of it has been operating because personnel doesn't change. So operational is the one that we are, but everything is in the city council's budget.
You're right. So with this, I have presented what was submitted by the manager to the council, what was originally budgeted. So you have, which I will say at the beginning, you have a lot of changes that you are going to make. And those changes, plus the changes that the manager has just said, will be included to come up with the budget that you are going to adopt.
Go ahead.
I just have a real concern, because this, I mean, we spoke about this. This is not what we spoke about. And the fact that it's being presented in its rare form here now, and it's just a waste of our time as well as the citizens' time. So I'm just a little concerned with the level of transparency and what we're doing here.
Well, so council member, in fairness, I know that we've had some, and I think I've been pretty straightforward that the council has not had as a whole the resources necessary to be able to govern appropriately. And so I think y'all have done a good job. I think it would be more helpful if you had some additional resources for some of those activities. And now while we presented to you guys on Friday that we would, look at some of these activities, it's just Tuesday and these activities were presented, remember, last Wednesday, because the packet has to go in early. And so we have not made those adjustments yet, but through the budget process, we expect to.
Are you finished? Councilman Willis and then Councilman Khalid.
Thank you. City Manager, I'm glad you made that comment because we've had to do several budget amendments to increase our council budget in order for us to get mandated training, and which requires sometimes travel. And so I would ask that for fiscal 19 that you do take a holistic approach of the budget amendments and what is needed for us to effectively do our jobs. There are some trainings we have to go through, and they're not local training. And give us recommend a budget that will allow us to do what we need to do as policymakers.
Well, sorry, and I'll tell you, we've been kind of challenged to find some time, but I'll tell you, and I guess I would want to forewarn you guys that we may be bringing forward to you a special call meeting to make an additional adjustment. When we looked at some of the things that I think are on the agenda moving forward, there's an upcoming conference for the National League of Cities, and I know GMA is good, and I know you guys attend that, but I know some of the decisions that we have to make as a progressive city, you only receive those things when you attend the national opportunity, maybe like the CBC, maybe like the National League of Cities, maybe like some of these other regional ones where you also get those credits. And so as we look at your budgets, even though we made an adjustment here recently, I think it's an opportunity coming forward for maybe a small budget amendment to be able to do that in 18. And through this budget process, we also need some feedback from you on the type of, I think each one of you, some public safety, others, parks and recreation. And so we need some of those insights so that we put together a budget so that we get you the education and resources that you need. So while I think there's a little bit of pushback on us providing what was originally submitted, I would say that we're still in the budget process, and it's our intent to not only right size it in 18, but also 19.
Okay, Mr. Khalid.
So I would just like to make a suggestion that this is, to my colleagues on council, that this is our budget, and we know best what it costs to do the things that we need to do for our citizens. So we might want to open up a SharePoint document, take a look at these numbers, and instead of waiting for someone to bring us what they think that we need, that we come up with this. We have receipts, we know what it costs to do our work. We might need to present at this special call meeting, we might need to present a budget to you. This is what we need. And then talk about how we can tailor it for each one of our districts. But I think that we just need to be in charge of driving this process, because now over a year in, I think we have a handle on the number that we need.
So, Mr. Manager, go through this exercise as we have it right now, not going to afford us anything. I think most of my colleagues would like to do what maybe Mr. Khalid said, was find out what the need is, and then we'll discuss that.
Well, I'll tell you, I think Mr. Malazi has stated this as well, that this is the council's budget. And so hey, listen, I'm probably a bigger advocate for the appropriate level of resources going to council than maybe even council is. And so the way that the process that you would like to do that, I'm more than open to.
Like Ms. Gumbs said, she's seen those figures.
Yeah.
So those,
well, not those. I don't think those are appropriate.
Those are the ones they're looking for, is the ones that show the increase in the budget. Mr. Baker?
Yeah, my only concern is showing this publicly and then to see a change, whereas our public looks at this and they're like, oh, why did it change? When this is something that they should never see. Or even the mayor's lines too.
Understood. Well, and I hope that they would understand that those numbers probably are not very adequate. And I think this year we have a much stronger budget, but from the first day that we submitted and transmitted, I think I told you that the weak points in the budget are some of the discrepancies that we had where we needed to move some positions around, and then two, that the council budget was based off of FY18, which I believe was flawed, but I wasn't here during that time, but I think just from what I've seen, not only in smaller neighboring jurisdictions, but even, nationally, and I would consider us a national city, I think for you guys to be able to make the appropriate governing decisions, you need a reasonable national budget.
Okay, well, we've gone through those, and Mr. Baker, we've already exposed it. Do we go further with the city council and the city clerk, and the city manager? Well, since we've already done, can you do that? Just briefly go through it, best you can. The city clerk and the city manager.
Mark, I don't really have anything in particular to add than what was already written on the slides, and hopefully you had that in your packet Friday. But I am begging on that one page I'm begging for a permanent council chamber. You may not realize how difficult it is every time we've met to come to a building that we have to take care as if it's our own. Beg and plead for the space, clean up, set it up before you get here, clean up when we're all done. But I'm highly encouraging everyone to find a place or a home for the city that might not be this place. Wherever it is, we're begging for that as the clerk, because it really helps you run these meetings, especially when we're meeting once a week. All the other numbers on the slides are what they are. I'm not particularly happy with 3 line items on the proposed budget, so I would like additional conversation. One being advertising, which we spent a lot more than that $1,600 when it comes to village rate advertising, your special meeting advertising, budget advertising. We've spent far beyond that. The hospitality line, I believe, is a little short as well. And the last, now that we've gone to a different methodology about paying for copiers and printing, I do believe that line is low as well.
Go ahead.
What was the last thing you said?
Printing. Yeah, and that's packets, every meeting that we have, plus the usage of the copiers. My understanding right now, when we swipe the cards, we're all pretty much paying for it, but it's coming out of the clerk's office.
All right. Okay, Mr. Manager, you doing yours?
Yes. So I think this budget is very similar to what you have seen before, so we won't belabor it. I think in the transmittal letter, just highlighted, that the focus of the city manager's budget and the budget of the city is just to move us forward and ensure that, not only the council, but even administrative staff are all able, prepared, and educated in a manner that allow us to reach the vision and accomplish the vision of council. I think there was some alignment that we highlighted as some things that we need to look at. I think one is that council is interested in making a decision on the reporting structure of the CFO/treasurer, since it is one person and we can coordinate that through this budget process, but we need some guidance from you guys. Currently, the IT, finance, and human resources report up through the CFO, who then reports up to the city manager, but the treasurer is separate and reports directly to council. So currently, by default in practice, we have had the CFO report directly to council. I think the other piece is that we align some citywide functions related to performance and data, et cetera, under the city manager's office, and the new assistant city manager position, which has all operations, reports under there as well. For operating expenses, there are a couple of items that we wanted to highlight so that we pull them out a little bit, and they are pulled out in the budget book, but just for this presentation, I highlight them. When you look at professional services, one of the key services in there to look at that is different than last year is $100,000 to be able to coordinate the 311 call center through contract. So you have your platform, which is one thing that was fairly reasonably priced at about $15,000, and those funds do not expire until the very end of the fiscal year. And so I guess re-up or renewal of that contract is included in that professional service, but there's also $100,000 that should net us 5 dedicated professional call center professionals to operate the actual call center portion of 311. Another area to highlight here is for technical expertise, which is another contractual service, but that area was about the same last year, but we did not utilize it, while we would expect to do so in the previous year. It also, those operational activities are GIS, all of those performance is not new money. It is just bringing those items under the city manager's budget. But that $100,000 for the call center is a new budget expense that did not exist anywhere else within the city. So that's the one big add-on. The other activities are not specific deep dives, but it's just highlights of activities from around the city's budget. So you know that the FY19 budget focused on public safety includes those new police and fire apparatus that you heard about today. It also included those educational supports that Chief Meadows mentioned to incentivize people who get their education, which has been a big piece from council. It also has aligned all of our software purchases under IT so that we, one, not only save money, but have a centralized location when it comes to those investments. The 311 activities that I mentioned should also assist with response times, because instead of people calling 911 for, let's say, animal control and things of that nature, they will call 311 and reach a live person. The other piece that we wanted to highlight are those investments that, just in summary, for Destination South Fulton, our economic development activities, which include an investment in the business incubator, as well as investments in retention activities. I think through the mayor's walk, one of the things that we saw throughout the city is that people want the monument signage and other business support activities that they can't get that support anywhere else. Some of them have even, had concerns about being able to maintain their stature here in our city, and so those supports are aimed at retaining our businesses. I think Councilmember Gumbs has kind of asked about some of our high-performing government activities like OpenGov and things of that nature. I think Councilmember Willis has asked about the monthly report that we provide with the mayor's walk and and things of that nature. So there are supports in the budget to make sure that we're building a government that works and is efficient. And finally, I think there is one area that we wanted to highlight in this report that's based around transition. So we are almost fully transitioned as a city, and we're coming up on our final stretch run. And so as such, when we look at the transition of services, the one that is outlined is public works, or we'll call it transportation specifically. And so as mentioned in the work session, we plan to transition on November 5th of 2018, and so we would request authorization through a vote tonight from council that allows us to write the letter to Fulton County to notify them of that date. And so our request by letter would be November 5th, but the joint coordination between Fulton County and us is actually aiming for October 29th. And so we'll be working for October 29th, but official date will be November 5th.
Did you want to vote on that?
We do. We will need a vote on that. And so
we can vote on it now.
And I think that
someone would like to make a motion.
I move that we prepare the necessary letter to transition public works from Fulton County to the great city of South Fulton.
Properly moved to second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? That is unanimous. Okay. With the name. You have.
No, I'm just trying to.
Okay, all right. I guess we'll go on. Are you finished?
Yes.
Have attorney. You know, I told you 2 minutes, but.
Yeah, I think
Wait, I'm sorry, Bob, can we get to ask questions about this budget? Are we moving on to the,
we got to understand.
On the 11th, right, we're going through everything in the budget.
Well, I think that's one thing.
Well, I'll allow you if you want to ask a question.
I just have 2 quick questions. One is the 311 operators, will they be in place by October or November when we're transitioning over the sanitation service? Or if we transition over our sanitation service?
We will transition our sanitation services. But I would say that we will definitely have the online platform. I looked while we were talking, that's October 1st. The actual call center, once the budget is passed, we can issue an RFP, but we could not obligate funding until October 1 into the new fiscal year. So if the budget is passed on September 11th, they will be prepared to issue an RFP on September 12th. And then I would say it is probably more likely that around November 1st, we could potentially have call center personnel.
And I've said this privately to you and the mayor, but I just want to make sure when we send those notices out, that people's sanitation service changes, that when they call, there will be somebody answering the phone that day, several people answering the phones all day that day. That's going to be that's going to be the first time that most people find out that they live in a new city. So people are going to have lots of questions. We need all hands on deck. And then lastly, when we do come back and do this special presentation, I didn't see the personnel or the personnel budget for the city manager's office, and I know we've added a lot of personnel, so I just would like to see that included in the presentation.
So now it is so for none of the presentations that we've done through this process that we include, this is right along that line, but in the budget book, it is detailed in there. And remember, the city manager's budget, even though we've added new roles, they don't actually report to me. So there are only, I think, 2 to 3 direct reports to me. The others go to other people. So they're included in their budget.
And then lastly, I know that I guess we're going to have some conversation about it later, but I do think that we might need to explore splitting the CFO and the treasurer role so that the lines of reporting are clear.
Okay.
I think Mr. Malazzi did. We talked during strategic planning and other activities about the markup process that I'm used to. And so I am not certain about the process of receiving council guidance and edits here. but I do think it's something that we should coordinate and address to make sure that, one, we're receiving the guidance from you guys. I think that was a great point. This is your budget, and so you could and should take control of it and give guidance. But I also would say that staff does need the appropriate time to be able to receive your guidance, incorporate it, and if there are any nuances that need to be addressed, that we do so quickly, efficiently, and effectively. And so I think Mr. Malazi had some insights on the process, right?
Yeah. So the budget that was presented by the manager to the council and the departments have presented, this is the end of it. Now we want to hear from you, the council. Everything that you have has to be written. You have to send your changes that you have, or your observations that you have, and you have to direct them to the city manager, the CFO, or the budget manager. You don't have directly to send them to the departments. The departments will be contacted by the city manager to make those changes. You have to say which line item you are increasing and which line item you want it added. So additions and subtractions of the department budgets, you have to identify them so that when we come on the 11th, all those changes have been included.
One of the things I did like about last year's budget process, we all heard the same thing. I think the problem is changing it and trying to vote it all in the same day. I think that's where things got a little crazy. But I think it's really important. One, I think it's transparent from the public because they can hear the discussion, and we're going through amending it department by department. I thought that was very helpful. And so if we're passing a budget on 11th, and it sounds like it's a need to do a budget amendment, maybe that's our time to go through so that when we get to the 11th, we have a clean budget that already incorporates that. If we have to have another meeting before the 11th, let's do that.
And so I think we might to do an amendment, kind of clean up resource piece, but I believe in speaking with Mr. Malazi that you have a little bit more time than the 11th if they wanted to take it. Is that correct? And what would the date be that it has to be delivered?
But you said there may be a special code meeting before the 11th.
Correct.
So if there is something, then by that time we may have, if depending on when. If it's not, you can still adopt the budget on the 18th. If you want to make all the changes on the 17th, 18th should be kind of like, we don't want to stretch too far to end of September because it has to be in place by 1st of October.
Okay. All right. Madam Attorney, let's take us home.
Yes, so Mayor, there are two issues that I'd like to address with the council. And if you do have a special meeting, these issues do involve, so this is potentially two additional items that you could attach to that special meeting if you have it before the 11th. So the first issue involves the city trucking ordinance. As you're aware, Senate legislation came out in recent, with the recent legislative session that essentially said the city's trucking ordinance lost its teeth on roads that have shared commercial and residential access. So we have been in collaborations with the county in recent weeks to get the authority back to our ordinance, and pursuant to this Senate bill, if we collaborate with the county and both governments are in agreement on the legislation, then we can in fact begin to enforce the ordinance. We had a really productive meeting with the county this morning, county representatives. We had Fulton Industrial District representative present, as well as staff and council members. And what I would like is authorization from the council to present a proposed ordinance at your next meeting that amends your trucking ordinance. And these amendments are based on the discussions that we had with our meeting with the county. We do believe, we are hopeful, the county staff is hopeful that with these changes, the county will join on board. So my request is that you allow me to bring a proposed ordinance back that incorporates those changes. If you could vote on that, and I'd appreciate it, and then I can go on to the next issue.
I'll accept the motion.
I make a motion to have the city attorney bring back the revised truck ordinance based on the amendments agreed to in the meeting today with the county and FIB.
Second. Been properly moved to second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? That passes unanimously. Of those here.
Okay, well, the second issue involves the city's entitlement to lost proceeds. So there is a local option sales tax statute that allows the city to, well, there are multiple services that the Constitution allows you to provide. And what this law statute does is it says that if you provide 6 services, there are 6 services that if you provide at least 3 of those services, you obtain your right to lost funds. Lost funds are probably the second largest source of revenue that the city is going to get, so it's extremely important for the city to retain its right to utilize these funds for public services. So the 6 services are water, sewage, garbage collection, fire, police, and library services. Obviously, water, sewage, and library, it's not economically, physically, technically, for every practical reason you can imagine, it's probably not ideal to bring those services, or realistic to bring those services in within the transition period. So we do already have fire and police services, so the goal in what the public has seen in the last couple of months has been to bring in, to transition in these sanitation services. We recently canceled the sanitation RFP, so we would like to get that process back going so that we can get something in place. It's very doable, but I do recommend that we meet in the near future if you can have a special meeting so that we can further flesh out and discuss getting these services into the city's satisfaction. My hope is to have this accomplished by October 1st, and we can certainly do this. We can accomplish this by October 1st, even if we don't have a special meeting before the next meeting. However, what I would like to do is I would like to present these options and other documents at a special meeting and then start that process. So I would also like to present the revised trucking ordinance at the next, at the special meeting as well, and here's the reason why. The reason is the county board of commissioners meet on the 19th. So that means that for you to amend your trucking ordinances, you need to have 2 readings between now and the 19th. And the only way to do that is to have another special meeting before their meeting on the 19th. If not, we can present the ordinance on the 11th and then have them vote on it at their meeting after the 11th. So it's not an emergency, but if you would like to get, well, if you would like to get this legislation in place sooner than later, if you have the special meeting, you could do that. So my recommendation is to do a special meeting that would include the budget discussion if the city manager would like to tack it on that meeting, as well as presentation of trucking documents and discussion, as well as presentation of sanitation and waste documents and discussion.
So you're asking for a special call meeting and we kind of pick the date?
Is there a date that works better for the council before the 11th? I guess it's the council's availability.
Mark can do a survey.
Yeah, we could do a survey. We could do a survey via email.
Yes.
If there's no date that's readily available.
Why don't you do that? Why don't we just send that to us and we'll just sign off on it?
Okay, we will make sure that email goes up.
Is that it? That's it.
That's it, Mayor.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting for tonight.
Second.
Properly moved and second. All those in favor? Y'all stay. Raise your hand.